Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Defcamp Melderon TV video. Well guys, we have some significant changes to talk about in Classic WoW, or Blizzard if you will. We'll first go over a very small piece of news. It's not really small as in lack of significance, it's small considering how it affects Classic WoW. Blizzcon 2020 has been cancelled. This is obviously because of the issues that are arising from the worldwide pandemic, and Blizzard has hinted towards this being a reality or a possibility. What does this mean for Classic WoW? Honestly, not much. But there is one significant thing that I think can affect something that affects the Classic WoW community at large, and that's the announcement of the Burning Crusade. If the TBC was to be announced, in my opinion, it would have been in BlizzCon 2020. We may get either a pushback of the announcement or not an announcement this year at all. Now, Blizzard has said there's a very high possibility they're going to be doing a virtual BlizzCon or something like that in early 2021. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I said in a previous video that I believe that TBC will be announced at BlizzCon 2020. Since there isn't one, I'm expecting them to release it either independently, or they will do it in this virtual BlizzCon in 2021. Now on to the Classic WoW news. We have some significant changes to Classic WoW in the form of Black Lotus and Warsong Gulch adjustments. I'm going to cover the Warsong Gulch thing first because I think this is something that is more of a change that's not going to affect the community at large or the economy at large. And if you are not aware, I put out a video last week about botting and cheating in Classic WoW. And at the end, I was talking about a certain druid that was doing some wall hacking in Warsong Gulch in the Alliance flag room. That will be nullified now because of this change. So for Warsong Gulch, we have identified a number of locations in the battleground where clever, I'd use the word dishonest, players have found ways to get to a place where they were never intended to go. These exploits are decidedly unfair, so we're putting a stop to them. In most cases, the way we prevent such things is to place an invisible gate that blocks the unintended path. However, that's sometimes impossible, so we make the out-of-bounds location fatal. Also, we're working on a hotfix that should put a stop to one small annoyance. Now, if a player is actively engaged with the mailbox or bank, they will be considered busy if someone else tries to initiate a trade. Okay, that happens sometimes. So the Warsong Gulch thing, if you're able to get on top of the flag, you will die, and it will despawn the flag, and they'll put the flag back into your flag room, so therefore you could lose the battle because of this exploit. This has been fixed. Thank you, Blizzard. I think I owe you not really an apology, but a thank you for listening to the community on this one. It was very frustrating, and it was really making the PvP experience negative for a lot of players, including myself, so thank you for that. Now moving on to the biggest piece of news, Black Lotuses. Before I read this, I just want to start with the story. So as you know, I play on Skyrim, a 98% Horde server. We have a Black Lotus Mafia that kind of makes the Devil Sword Mafia from private servers in early vanilla look like a bunch of kids playing some pranks, right? This Black Lotus Mafia that we have is made up of bots and is highly coordinated and is literally bringing the server to heel as far as flasks are concerned and Black Lotuses. Black Lotuses on my server as of yesterday were 240 to 250 gold a piece, and that went up from about 190 in less than a week. And it's been on a steady increase since the server has launched, since everyone got to 60. I don't know how it is on every server. I'm sure you guys can tell me in the comments how bad it is on your server, but it's super bad. And why it's really bad on Skyrim is that there's no competition. Since there's only 2% Alliance population, there's not enough Alliance to keep that competition going. And since you can't kill your own faction, it's so bad, there are rumors that there are players from certain guilds that are creating Alliance alts on second accounts just to compete for these Black Lotus nodes. That's how bad it's gotten on Skyrim. If you look at the old WoWhead information, Black Lotuses on some servers were going for 10 gold back in vanilla. It's amazing how much the inflation, because of knowledge and because of what we have coming forward, people know what patches are coming out, people know how hard certain content's going to be, and they've created this hugely inflated market, right? It's an issue because of, in my opinion, and many others, Navic, we were talking about this in comms right before this. This is a product of large server numbers, right? Populations that are too high. The world can't sustain, literally. There's not enough resources for everyone, and the demand is high enough and the supply is low enough that these prices are so high, right? And we'll get into whether this is a good change or a bad change after I read it. I want to have everyone's honest opinion here because when I first saw this news, was super, super excited, and I wanted to talk about this and be like, yeah, look at this, you know, but there are some, you know, issues, right? And we'll talk about that. Okay, via hotfixes, we're working on several quality of life improvements that should go live in the next few days. Black Lotus scarcity has been consistently among the top issues we've seen player feedback about. So we've decided to update how we handle Black Lotus spawns. Since the launch of WoW Classic, the game has used the spawn times and locations from original World of Warcraft, but population and social factors have led to Black Lotus being much more scarce than it was in original WoW. While these issues affect all mining and herb nodes to some degree, Black Lotus is especially affected because it has the special property of only having one spawn up at a time in each of the zones it spawns in. So if you guys don't know, there's only 4 zones that Black Lotus can spawn in: the Burning Steppes and Eastern Playlands on the Eastern Kingdoms, and Silithus and Winter Spring in Kalimdor. And only one Black Lotus can exist at one time in those zones, even though there are like 10 spawn points. In original WoW, designers planned Black Lotus around a technical limitation. Only 10 spawn locations per node type could be active at the same time in the same zone. We no longer have that limitation, but it gives us a design intention that we can work with. Black Lotus was supposed to spawn in the widest variety of locations, while there could only be one up at a time in each zone. As always, our goal is to minimize differences from original World of Warcraft, and we feel this is a case where we can follow that design intention in a way that is warranted by modern conditions as well as beneficial to players. So what's interesting is I did not know that only 10 spawn locations per node type could be active at the same time in the same zone. So by that math, that would mean that only 10 Plague Bloom can exist at one time. I wonder if that's still the case. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you guys know that. But for Black Lotus, there were only 10 spawn locations and only one could exist. We're going to increase the spawn rate of Black Lotus, and we're going to add many additional possible spawn locations in each of the Black Lotus zones. The spawn rate, if you don't know, for Black Lotus is somewhere between 45 minutes to 90 minutes. Or 75 minutes, actually, I think. And there is some room for randomness within that window. Now, they're going to increase the spawn rate of Black Lotus, so they're going to drop that rate down to a new average, and are going to also increase the amount of possible spawn locations within each Black Lotus zone. So each of these 4 zones I talked about previously will have more than 10 possible Black Lotus spawns. With a different hotfix, we're working on making it so that a player cannot see a Black Lotus on screen or on their minimap if they're dead, unless they have 300 herbalism. So a common practice would be that you would get an alt up in one of these locations, have them be dead. As long as they had herbalism, they could run around and spy or scout for these Black Lotus spawns that pop up, and then move on to their picker, whoever their 300 herbalism would be, and have it pick. So some of them were bots, of course, that were just designed to stand there and wait for the Lotus to spawn. And on Skyrim, that was more prevalent because you had no alliance that can kill these people, right? But on other servers, I think the way to do it was to have these alts to look for places and scout, so either they would switch to the herbalism picker, or they would contact someone who was the picker, move to that zone, and pick it up. So that's not allowed. So that will decrease the level of exploitation that's possible. So what we can gather from this is that they're going to decrease the spawn rate and increase the amount of possible locations. What they didn't say is if you could have multiple Black Lotuses spawn in a zone at one time. They kind of hint towards that, but they didn't say it. So maybe, Blizz, you can clarify this, because we're maybe there's a misunderstanding here. If it's just lowering the spawn rate and increasing the amount of possible spawn locations, in my opinion, it's still very much exploitable, because you just have to add the amount of places to look at for these mafias, and then they just would stay logged in, right? If you allowed multiple, it would make it harder, but what I think would make it even more hard, Blizz, is to randomize the spawn rate, so that it could be anywhere from 1 minute to an hour at each spot, so that it would really limit the amount of waiting there, right, and exploitation that could possibly happen on these Black Lotus spawns. A short discussion whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. So, Navik brought up a good point. What these changes do, they're warranted because of the overpopulation we have on these servers, number one. And, he called it a Band-Aid fix because it's, you're Band-Aiding an issue because of another issue that's already there. And that is these large populations that are on these servers, right? And then he brought up another good point, is that what these changes do, they reduce the faith in investment, right? Why do people farm elemental earths? Why are people farming nature resist gear? Why are people farming certain things? Is because they know these things are coming into the game, and you're able to invest in those things prior so that you can make money later. And honestly, our economy is based upon this investment protocol. Now, will I, of course, say that the exploitation of the Black Lotus market has been mostly negative for most of the players? It is positive for those who put in the effort and, look at these nodes, right? So is this going to have a significant impact on the economy? I believe so. On Scarum, again, we were at 240. And then today, people were buying them for as low as 70 gold within an hour of this coming out. And they boosted back up to about 150, 170. Will it have long-term implications for this? And, these kind of changes, which are non-vanilla-like, they open the door for more changes, right? And I'm wondering how far the snowball is going to go, right? And that's something that we have to discuss in the comments, because I don't know. I think this is a interesting change. I'm on the side of it being a positive change for the community at large and the economies on these servers, especially on a server like Scarum. However, we don't know the long-term implications and how this is going to affect the viability of investment going into AQ and Nax. We don't know how this is going to affect those things. So I would just say, Blizz, thank you for making a change that I think was needed, quote unquote. I just want to see how this is going to play out. So let me know in the comments how you think it's going to play out. Well, I want to know a couple things, right? What do you think is going to happen because of this change? And two, has it already affected your Black Lotus economy? Has it decreased the cost of these Lotuses significantly? And if it did, do you think that flasking will be much more common now in progression or non-progression, even farm status? I think because of these changes, we're going to see kill times on average. I mean, the top guilds are already flasking, right? But I think we're going to see kill times drop even more because these flasks are going to be so cheap, potentially because of these changes, that everyone can flask, even melee, using Flask of the Titans for extra hit points. Let me know what you guys think. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep on and grinding, and enjoy yourselves in Classic Azeroth. I'll see you in the next video.